If you want to give him a round of applause, let's welcome Adam back to the stage.
All right, so we're going to go on to, technical name is the next bit. But before we do, just very quickly, any questions that you need clarification on what we've covered? Because the next step, as Steve said, is we're going to personalise this, or we're going to give you a structure or a way in which you can personalise this information into your business. But before we go ahead, let's just make sure everyone's up to speed. So turn to your neighbour, and say, what was your best bit? The best bit was this. Just wait. There's two parts. And also, is there something that you need clarified? Best bit and clarification. So turn to your neighbour. Best bit, clarification. All right, so just quick hand, best bit and anything that needs clarification. So over at this table at the back, ladies, best bit. What was your best bit? This is where I get some praise and feedback.
I'm standing in the end, the circle and yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, awesome. Thank you. This table.
We just said the mindset, understanding how you can change. It is about your mind and you can change and putting that into your business.
Fantastic, fantastic. You don't need to, in my view, you don't need to, mindset can change very quickly. You don't have to be feeling good to do good things in your business. And it's like the premise is do what makes you happy despite how it feels. You don't have to feel like going to the gym to get a good workout. You don't have to be in your happy place for it to benefit you. So the whole premise here, I'll just step back to this here. So you've got something to do in your business, okay? You might not be comfortable with it. And this is when you're not comfortable, when there's like inner conflict or fear or whatever. This is just body. This is the memorized body stuff talking to you. Self-conscious is where you can go, I feel good, I feel good, I feel good. But your body can be saying, I don't feel good, I don't feel good. And super conscious it's a fancy way of saying what's possible. But what determines the outcome is not getting rid of all this stuff. What determines the outcome is what we act on. Write this down please. What determines the outcome is what we act on. I don't feel like going to the gym. I'm going to go anyway. I'm still going to take that action despite how it feels. Pardon? What determines the outcome? Because this is a representation of subconscious, basically. So so you've got all this input coming into the subconscious, just like when we did the unbendable arm exercise. All we did was we took different actions and got a different outcome. So, you can be scared, you can be telling yourself you're awesome, you can be in your creative space, but what we act on, if we're trying to avoid fear, we create more. If we're doing what we should be doing in our business, we create more. So the key is what determines the outcome is what we act on. Do we avoid the little voice inside our head that says, don't do it? Or do we go for that, that part of us that's saying, you know what, let's do this. Let's make a difference, etc. So beautiful. Does that clarify that? Does that make it? Okay. So best bit, what do you need clarification on?
Yeah. But just the best bit, I think, was the commodity service experience transformation. So you don't want to be selling a commodity. You want to, whatever you're selling, you want to give the experience or the transformation for the client, so then you can charge more because, like we're in building, like every builder can build if they've got a builder's license. Much the same, you buy all your products at the same place, you use the same thing. How do you separate yourself from that? You have to give your client the experience or provide some sort of transformation, then you can charge more because you appear to be better than everybody else that's doing the same thing.
Yeah. One of my best mates is they've got their builders in Brisbane, and they charge twice as much as everyone, and they're booked out.
Yeah.
And they say we charge twice as much as everyone. And the reason why we charge twice as much as everyone is we give an exquisite outcome. So if you just want a renovation, go to these guys. But if you want something beautiful, come and see us. And so that's where we're talking about transformation. Commodity is, I'll give you a reno, I'll add a room on.
Yeah.
Whereas transformation is, we're going to turn your house into the envy of the suburb, etc. Beautiful. Okay, guys at the back.
I just said focusing on the result rather than the process. So really
Beautiful.
selling what they're going to get rather than how they're going to get it.
Fantastic. Well, exactly. We'll get to that in a sec. It's very, very intelligent. The outcome puts us up in transformation. Most people are selling logistics, and we need to start selling outcome, and I'm going to be talking about that soon. So anything that people need clarification on? No, awesome. Well, let's keep going. So there's, as we said here, in relation to revenue, we take our product, we have our mechanics. Everyone remember what that is? That's your social media, your marketing, etc. We have your market. Market determines how much you can charge. And your message. Message determines conversion. We're going to be looking at now a premium market. The next thing is we're going to look at the market itself. Because by changing your market, or by market is the fastest way to grow revenue. Because it's the fastest way to increase your price. Does that make sense? Okay, do we need to do the arm thing again? No? Okay, so positioning yourself, market is all about positioning yourself. Now, the value of your service, is not determined by your service. The value of your service is determined by your customer. Now, who you market to, who you sell to, determines how much you can charge. You with me? Okay, so for example, in my service, we help people get a minimum 40% conversion from a workshop. So that's our transformation. We help people go from 10% conversion to a minimum 40% in a room. So if I've got 40%, that's a metric, which involves these two, your mechanics and your message, which we're going to be covering in a minute. But if I've got someone, let's just say I can help someone increase their income by 10. Or you can help someone increase their income by 10. And I've got a homeless dude. Now, do you think increasing his income by 10 is going to make a massive difference to his life? Yeah. But let's just say, what's his income now? Let's just say I can help him make $100. Is he happy? Hell yeah. Hell yeah. That's new shoes. But he doesn't need them because he's got them for free. But has that made a difference in his life? Absolutely. All right. Now, let's just say we go homeless and now we've got a what do we call it, a small business? Like a solopreneur, is that what we call it? Solopreneur? We'll call it a life coach. Any life coaches in the room? Great. We're going to pick on you. Okay, so the average income for a life coach, does anyone know? Anyone have a guess? 60,000? Not quite. Anyone want to have a stab? 50? No. Lower? 35? No. Lower? Who said 10? Great. So a life coach, their average income is 10K. So if I can increase their income by 10, I can get them to 100,000. Does that make sense? So a solopreneur, we can take homeless person to $100, great, or $1,000, well, because he's on the dole, he gets something. Solopreneur, we can make them $100,000. Now, imagine we've got an established business that's doing, what, 100K? A small business? So they're earning 100K, so any mathematicians in the room and the accountants, what can we get their income to?
Mil.
A mil. Okay. Can you see where we're going here? Anyone not see where we're going?
10 times tables.
Okay, great, beautiful. So now we've got to imagine you've got a business that's doing a mil, and you come in and you add that kind of revenue to them. So we've got we'll call that well, that's a small biz, but we'll call it a smallish biz. So we can help them get to 10 mil. Okay, same service, increasing your revenue by 10. Increasing your revenue by 10. Used in different markets. Which market is going to get the most out of the service?
All of them.
All of them? Fantastic. Which one's going to get the most? Okay, this is a maths question.
Homeless.
Is it 10 times profit or is it 10 times revenue?
You decide. Well, just say revenue. Yeah, that's life changing for them. But in terms of, so we'll hold this in mind, okay? So, smallish business makes the most. So bear this in mind. So bear with me as we go through this. Now, the main thing we've got to get when we're talking about positioning. So we'll come back to this. The main thing we've got to get is that your service has nothing to do with. Your service has nothing to do with the value of your business. The service is not the value determinant in your business. So, anyone know Rolls-Royce and BMW? So the BMW, you might have heard this story. So BMW, you pay about 100 grand for the top of the range in the US. You pay about 100 grand for the top of the range BMW. Now, they use a particular engine. It's a V8 super thing engine. It's technical. But they use the same engine that's in the Rolls-Royce. Costs the same. In fact, the Rolls-Royce, the same model Rolls-Royce, in the same level model Rolls-Royce, costs about $10,000 extra to build. But the BMW costs you 100 grand, and the Rolls-Royce costs 250 grand. It's basically the same car, apart from some cosmetic things that cost around 10 grand. So who do you think's making more money? Rolls-Royce. Same car, different positioning. Same car, different positioning. And it's you pay 2.5 times the price. And it's the same, so this is the deal with positioning. You can offer the same service to a different market, and that determines how much you can charge, but it also determines the value of your service. Now, so I use a metric in my business, like if I want to give someone tangible results, so that's how I value my business. It's if I like every client is different because I know I can increase someone's business by a certain amount, but the business itself, if I can get someone to add another mil, they're going to pay me more than the person who's going to only add 100 grand. Does this make sense? Just turn to your neighbour and discuss this. I just want to make sure. Turn to your neighbour and just let me know that. Discuss the concept we're talking about. Your customer determines the outcome. The customer determines the value of business. Sorry. Okay, so this is how I value a service. How I value a service is the difference you make to someone's bottom line, or the difference you make to someone's tangible measure, like the difference you make to someone's profit or revenue, you divide that by either 3 or up to 10. So to keep this really simple, if I can add, we'll keep it in numbers of 10, okay? So if I can add $1,000 to the homeless fellow, if I divide that by 10, that is the value of my product or service. So the value is $100. You with me? Okay. So the solopreneur, divided by 10, what's the value of my service to them? Pardon? 10K. That's what I can charge them. I can make you $100,000, I can charge you $10,000 to do that. Does this make sense? Pennies dropping? Okay. Small business, I can make them an extra $1 million. What's the value of the service? 100K. So if I come up to you and say, I can make you an extra $1 million and it's going to cost you $100,000, and you believe me, is that a good deal? Yeah? So this is going to cost 100K. So this here, smallish business, I'm adding 10 mil. What's it going to be worth? So your service is worth $1 mil. This is the thing, I just want you to get this. You don't determine the value of your business. Your clients do. And more importantly, the outcome they get, the change you can deliver for them, whether it's how they feel, whether it's in their finances, whether it's in their team, the transformation that you give someone determines the value of your service. You with me? Okay. So to do this, to position this now, like we get the concept, now we're going to start putting it into our business and more importantly into our marketing and sales process. So to do this, we need to have a flip in the way we think about sales. Most people think about sales as taking what I've got and giving it to someone else. So the process is, how do I get my thing to them? Does this make sense? Yeah? Okay, so it's after lunch. Everyone's had a nice meal. Put your hand up. Come on. Put your hand up. You're here. You may as well get the most out of it. Now go like that and go, it's after lunch. I'm going to try and answer the question. Okay. So we're going to have a flip. And the flip is, we don't want to get people to interview us. We want to interview our clients. We want to interview our prospects. And the way we do that is in the positioning of our service and the mechanics and our message. And I'm going to show you how we do that. That's the next bit of the presentation. So when we're picking a market, there's 4 questions that we want to cover. There's 4 questions to know to determine whether we have a premium market. Now you can, if you want to do this, you can answer it in relation to your current clients, or you can answer it in relation to potential clients, okay? So you can say, well, this guy that I work with, how does this question relate to them? Or you can just do it in terms of trying to find a specific market. The first question that we need to ask is, who will tangibly gain the most from my intellectual property? Who will tangibly, measurably gain the most from my intellectual property, from my product or service? So, client, give me a client example.
Youth groups?
Youth groups? Okay, fantastic. So will they tangibly gain more than small business?
Yes.
Well, the better question in that case is, do they tangibly gain from your service?
I guess I've got to pick it to one activity, because we do adventure sports. There's like there's water sports,
Right.
and there's all different stuff. So depending on what activity they do, we can apply like the risk assessment in abstain and say, well, the risk you take in business is actually similar to abstain because you're controlling what goes on. And you can aim it at that kind of level. But from a youth point of view, if they're doing water sports or something, there's like a confidence booster for them.
Yeah. perfect. It's like the homeless guy. He's going to tangibly gain a lot, okay? But the business is going to tangibly and measurably gain a lot more. You with me? Okay, so the second question is this. Who is most likely to implement my intellectual property or service? So you've got to understand, I deal largely with people who sell information. The problem with information is that not everyone's going to implement it. Who's come to a workshop, got great ideas, and then got back to work on Monday and not implemented it? Yeah? Anyone? Actually, let me ask it a different way. Who hasn't? Who hasn't not implemented something that they've thought about in a workshop? Okay. So who's most likely to implement? Because you've got to understand, when you think this way, we're reverse engineering the sales process. So if someone is most likely to implement, they suddenly become a more valuable prospect. The person most likely to implement, is more valuable than someone who's unlikely to implement. This is why the homeless guy isn't a great prospect, because he's unlikely to implement.
Is that because they get results and that's good for them and you? What makes it valuable?
No, the question is who's most likely to implement this? Who's most likely to use it? So, someone who, I don't work with corporate. I'll never touch corporate because they're unlikely to implement, because there's such a process to get them to implement something. Whereas small businesses within a certain price range, there's a sweet spot there that people will always implement, generally. But this is how we're interviewing. We're saying who's going to use this? Who's actually going to take what I've got and use it valuably? Does that make sense? The third question is who wants what I've got the most? Who wants what I've got the most? Has anyone been to Manila? I'll just come back a second. There's a myth, and the myth is that people can't afford what you've got. That's a myth. People can afford what you've got. They just don't want it. Who wants what I've got the most is the question. Now, if you go to Manila, you fly down the runway and land, and on the left is Manila City, like the towers, etc. And on the right, as far as you can see, is shanty towns. They don't have running water. They don't have toilets. They've got dirt floors, but most of them have TV antennas. Ladies and gentlemen, if people want what you've got, they will find money to get it. Price, if people are saying it's too expensive, that's basically saying, I don't want it. So this is when we're interviewing our market, who wants the most. If they want it, it's not a sale, it's a fit. We're not trying to push something they don't want. If someone's saying, I really want your thing, like in our sales process, that I teach people, by the time you get to the sales meeting, it's an interview. Like, we don't have people say, I don't want your thing. We say, okay, there's a criteria you've got to meet to work with us. It's an interview process because it's reverse engineered. So people get interviewed to work with us, not the other way around. Because we're working with people who are going to get great value from what we do, they're likely to implement it, and they really want it. That's not sales anymore. That's just delivering a service to a hungry market. Does that make sense? Turn to your neighbour and just discuss what you just listened to. Turn to your neighbour. We're going to do this a bit because it's after lunch and I need a nap. Final question. Who will pay the most for it? This is the question when we're interviewing our market, or when we're identifying the right market to position to, who will pay the most for it? So Peter's market, to use him for the same example, will corporate pay more than someone who shops around? Like your tool user, your tight-ass tool user versus corporate, who's going to pay the most? Corporate. People who've got the money. Paying full in advance, yep. Lisa?
That's what I would say too, like, with your example of the homeless and the small business, you've got to be careful where you spend your marketing dollar, because you don't want to be targeting your services to somebody like a homeless person, because
No.
they might need your services and they might benefit from them,
Yeah.
but they can't afford them.
Well, there's two questions I ask anyone when I'm interviewing. The first two questions is, who do you help, what do you help them do?
Yeah.
Because I know the transformation and I know the value of the market in two questions. Who do you help, what do you help them do? So a really good thing for you to do when you're meeting someone is not say, oh, I've got a business and this is what we do, and I'm, like you give your spiel. You say, I help this person do this thing. Sales 101 is communicate your stuff cleanly and clearly so that people go, I help this person solve this problem. So I'll just write it down because it's totally worth doing. I help insert person solve this problem. This can be solve or achieve, get outcome. I help this person solve this. Hairdressers. I help ladies. I help mothers look hot. I help corporate companies or small businesses turning over $1 million with 25 staff build teams in a fun way. Build in great culture within their business through shooting their boss with paint. What do you guys do? Build. You builders? You're a builder? What? So who do you help? What do you help them do?
We help families achieve the house that they need. Extra room.
Cool. Okay, so that's a commodity, okay? That's a commodity message. Do you see that? We help families achieve the house they need. So if we want to go premium, we want to say we help families take turn their home into something like their house into a beautiful home that not only looks good, but their friends want to try and keep up with. You know, they become the Joneses. Anyway, it's a bit clunky, but you understand the process? I help this person achieve this thing. I help people I help people live in beautiful homes through our construction company. Does that make sense? Okay. So that's how we vet a market. Now, all you do is, does this person, who's going to get the most out of it? Who's most likely to implement it? Who's going to pay the most for it? Who wants it the most? If you run that through your current market, you'll see whether you've got the right person for you to be working with. Does that make sense? Okay, turn to your neighbour and high five them and go, holy shit, that is amazing. So if you haven't noticed already, I like Asian themes, okay? There's a book called Zhuangzi, and I know all of you have probably read it. But Zhuangzi, there's a story there. Yep. And so there's a story of this family, and they make leather shoes. And for centuries, they were making really high quality leather shoes. But they had this salve, or like this leather cleaner stuff that they would put on their shoes, and it was a family recipe. So for generations, they've used this leather cleaner stuff on their shoes, and they wouldn't tell anyone the recipe. And this dude walks by and sees the leather stuff and says, can I buy the recipe off you? And he was a general, and at the time in China there was a big war going on, and so he said, I'll give you 100 silver pieces for it. And the family went, well, we haven't earned 100 silver pieces in a generation, so we'll give him that. We've worked hard. So he took this recipe, and they used it because it was in China. They have pretty harsh winters and wind, and they used the salve or the leather protector on the hands of the warriors during this war. So this guy went into mass production of this leather stuff to give to the warriors, and the guy became the wealthiest person in China at the time by using a product to clean shoes within a different market. Your service within a different market could be valued way, way higher. And I just want to leave you with that to think about, okay? So, have you got the right market? We'll just take a minute and just think to yourself, have I got the right market? Is there a better one? And we're going to get into the next bit. Okay, so the next bit was message. Actually, just turn to your neighbour and just discuss what's been most valuable so far out of that. Turn to your neighbour. So message is about conversion. All we were looking at before with market is, have we got the right market? Is there someone who's going to get more value and therefore value my service more? That's all the market is. That's all we're really trying to ask. With message, most message I see in the market is convoluted. And it's convoluted because, for a number of reasons. What I mean by convoluted message is saying one thing and like a whole lot of different offerings or an unclear message to your market. That's what I mean by convoluted. Whereas if we get this right, our message should be nice and streamlined to our market so that we're basically saying one thing in many different ways. So if we get the message right, we get what's called a conversion message. And there's 4 basic keys to getting your conversion right. The first one is establishing yourself as the authority. Now, to establish yourself as authority, it's actually not that difficult. There's 3 things we need to establish ourselves as the authority. We need to understand what's called our client's root problem, it's called. Now, the root problem is what's really going on under the surface. So, to keep it really simple, most people, and this is good for the accountants and the business coaches in the room, most people are challenged with their fruit problems. My cash flow's not right. I don't have enough, my marketing's not working, my conversion's low. But generally, at the root of all those problems is their business model is not right. If you go into a doctor and you say, I've got a sore throat, and he says, well, show me your knee, he clearly hasn't understood what's going on. The doctor becomes credible and valuable when he understands your problem better than you. So, for paintball, if you corporates or big business come in and they've got team building challenges, the problem they've got is they've got no way to engage their staff in a way that builds team. So you come in and say, your problem is this. Your staff are just bored. We need to build team in a fun and engaging way. So you've just shown you understood their problem. Does that make sense? Then we have, if you have a solution to that problem, paintball. And then you also have the experience. If you have a solution and you've done it before, so there's 3 ways you can get experience. You've either done it yourself, you've helped others do it, or you've studied it more than anyone. If you've studied it more than anyone, you're an expert, certainly in relation to them. So there's 3 ways to get experience. So I understand your problem. I understand it better than you. I have a solution for that, and I've done it before. You suddenly are the authority. In fact, the more you understand this root problem, the more you'll become the authority in their business, in their mind. The more you understand their problem, the more you get that, the more you'll be positioned as the person who can help. The more you understand that, the more you can charge. Does that make sense? Turn to your neighbour and quickly say, what is my client's real problem? What's the problem that my client has? Okay. Does anyone have an idea what their client's problem is? Yeah? So for builders, the problem you've got is the problem you've got is your home's not big enough, but you don't just want your home bigger, you want it beautiful. That's their problem. Most people are just trying to save money. Really, what we want is to get your home in a way that you love it. Like their problem is what they're really trying to deal with. So with corporate, everyone has a different problem anyway. So I think we get the picture. Are we clear on your client's problem? All right. So the next thing with our marketing or our message, we want to have a single theme. Now, anyone seen Kramer versus Kramer? Okay, it's a film about a guy getting divorced and a custody battle over over the son. Now, in film schools, they use this as the perfect illustration of a well-written film, because every single scene in the movie relates to the theme. The theme of the film is actually fatherhood. It's all about him becoming the best, a better father. But he's at work and he's about to run home because he's got to pick up his kid, and the boss says, can you work late? And he's like, I've got to get my kid. And so every single scene relates to, he's at work, but it relates to his son. He's with a lady friend, but it relates to his son. Everything relates back to the theme. Now, I'm going to give you a little model here to map out your theme. But if you just have to understand, every piece of marketing, everything in your business must relate back to the theme. So the way, we'll just flick through this, value versus prowess. So most people in their business or in their marketing are trying to say one of three things. They're trying to say, I'm the best at this, my product is the best at this, or my business is the best. But really, in doing so, we miss the real key, which is, the real key is that that we need to get our message directed specifically to the market. So we've got three things. We've got you, we've got my product, or we've got my business. This is what most people are marketing, but really we've got this opportunity. If we market directly towards the problem of our prospect, we're going to increase traction and conversion significantly. Okay? So, like hairdressing, do you want to look beautiful? Are you a mum and you want to get your sexy back on? That could be a marketing thing. I think that'd work. Maybe not for mothers, but it'd work for me. So the next thing, the next key is we want to engineer the process. Now, when I engineer a process, I have a thing called the magic pills. Now, this is actually the first thing I do. I identify a market that I think is good, and then I run them through they're called the 6 magic pills. Every single thing in my marketing, my message, my sales process relates back to this. So it's all based on your prospects. First thing is their problem. And I'll show you how this works in a moment. The second thing is what we call the prescription. Prescription is what they need. Your problem is this. From what you tell me, this is the problem. And if that's the problem, this is what you need. The third thing is promise. Promise is the transformation that you give. I help businesses go from here to here. I have a program that helps businesses add $10,000 to their business. I have a program that helps small business build teamwork through fun activities and shooting their boss. Promise is the transformation that you give them. Now, I wish I had more time to go through this, but model is simply the way in which you get the outcome. So for hairdressing, it could be We give you a new style, we give you a new colour, and we give you, so it's like style, colour and smell. That's how we make you look sexy again. Does that make sense? So the model is the things you do to get them to the outcome. So your model to help corporates build team is we need fun, we need challenge, and we need experience through paintball. They're the three things that we do to help get this outcome. Number 5 is logistics. Logistics is, most people when they're selling, they go straight towards logistics. So if you're a coach, people say, what do you do? Well, we work together once a week, costs you this much, we'll have an hour meeting. These are all logistics. Most people lead with logistics. People don't give a shit about your logistics. They want to know, can you solve my problem? Can you give me what I need? What am I actually going to get? How do I get it? How do you get this outcome? And how does it work? The logistics is the fifth most important, the fifth least important. And the final thing is price. Does this make sense? So give me an example business. Well, who's willing to run through this real quick? Yep. What's your business?
HR.
Who do you help? What do you help them do?
Small business, help them manage their people.
Help them manage their people. So what's their problem?
That they're spending a lot of their time managing things like performance or having contracts in place, communicating their expectations, and getting their staff to perform as well as possible.
So you help them manage their people. So do you help them get better people, or do you help them get more out of the people they've got?
Get more out of them.
Okay, so by the sounds of it, the problem they've got is their systems, their business systems don't get the most out of their staff. That's the root problem. The first rule of business coaching is before we look at the person, we look at the system. So the fruit problem is staff turning up late, poor performance, low morale, etc., etc. They're the fruit problems. But the real truth is, down the bottom, is the staff don't know how to get the best out of themselves, which is a system problem. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Please make sure you write this down, because this is a sales pitch here. This is a sales pitch.
People pay out $50,000 a year. This is joking.
This bit here. This is how you do a sales pitch. You don't go my price. We don't talk about logistics. We go, the truth is you've got people problems because you have system problems. So what you need is to re-engineer your systems. I run a program that helps re-engineer your people systems to get the most out of your people. So the people become assets, not liabilities. The way we do it is through systems, team building, blah, blah, blah. You can call it Bob, I don't know what your process is yet. The logistics, the way we work together is I come in and blah, blah, blah. This is how the thing works. And it's going to cost you this much. Does that make sense? This is what we call a lazy pitch. You're a small business owner. The problem is your staff are bored out of their head and your team morale is low. And therefore it's costing you, your bottom, it's costing your profit because your staff aren't performing. So what you need is, we need a way to build your staff up in a way that's engaging for them, so that you're not driving your staff, so that they're driving your business for you. The way we do that is through team building, fun activities, using skirmish and paintball to get those results. So we do some trainings. It's fun activities, adventure and challenge, and get to shoot your boss. That's your model. The logistics are, it happens on this day. We go for a whole day, and your whole staff, it's going to cost you $10,000 for the day. Does that make sense? Problem, prescription, promise, model, logistics, price. Never lead with logistics. The biggest killer. People go, this is how my process works. People aren't buying a process. People are buying an outcome. People are not buying your process, they're buying your outcome. Turn to your neighbour and just say how good that is. Just turn to your neighbour, please. If you understand it, just say, how good is that? If you don't understand it, just lie. So just a real quick summary. Problem is the cause. This is the thing causing everything wrong in your business. This is the thing causing your hair to be ugly. This is the thing causing your team to suck. This is what you need. This is what I've got. This is what I'm going to get you. This is how we get it. This is how we work together. Logistics is how we work together. And this is how much it's going to cost. Now, in price, just I'll do this real quick. With price, there's two things, time and money. It's going to cost you a day and $10,000. It's going to cost you 3 hours and $250 for your makeover or whatever. It's going to cost you 3 months and $100,000 for the reno. Real quick, any questions? Anyone want to apply that to their business? Yeah? Cool. All right. Now we're going to get into the final thing, which is mechanics, okay? Now we're going to scream through this. Now, see, where I get excited is when everything fits together nicely. So these magic pills are the spine of every business. They're the spine of your marketing message, but they're also the spine of the mechanics. Now, so when we're talking about mechanics, there's generally 4 types. We'll whip through these. We have confused, we have ineffective, we have non-existent, or we have complex. Anyone relate to any of these? All 4 of them? Okay, so what we want is strategic. And to get strategic, we want to remove as much of the crap as we can and have it as streamlined as possible. So there's 7 steps in this strategic model, okay? Now, what I mean by mechanics is the process of taking a prospect or connecting with a prospect and turning them into a paying client. There's 7 steps. So, step number 1 is pick a market. And I seriously take time to pick your market because it's the single determinant of how much profit you're going to make. Well, it's not the single, but it's a huge determinant. The second step is we need, what's that? A tap. So we need to connect up to a funnel, or we need to connect up to a lead source. That's step 2. So this is Facebook, this is LinkedIn, this is, pardon? Yeah, exactly. Well, not yet. This is just where the traffic's going to come from. It could be joint. There's only 3 types. There's paid, there's partnership, or there's promotion. So you pay for it with your advertising, you partner with someone, a joint venture partnership, or you promote. You promote organically through your list or through your blog, etc. So step 3. Now, I'm a terrible drawer, but that's a hand. Okay? Step 3, it's a hand. It's not a tree. It's a hand. So step 3 is get your market to put their hand up. Who has this problem? Do you have this problem? So when you're marketing, this is a lead magnet or an opt-in, or this is your advertising. The headline of your advertising, do you have this problem? Do your staff suck? Do you love your staff but you want to get more out of them? Do you want a house or do you want a family home? Do you have this problem? Let's get them to put their hand up. Step 4 is essentially get them to turn up. This is the process of once you've connected with someone, do you have this problem? Yes. This is your blogging, your video blogging. This is your email sequences. This is your marketing that gets people to turn up to a conversion event, which is get them to pay up. Step 5 is to get people to pay up. So this is your one-on-one sales quote. This is your one-on-one sales consult. This is a workshop. This is a quote. Your quoting system is your conversion event. So when you're quoting, like seriously, when you're quoting, give them the money, tell them what it's going to cost, but that's the least important thing when you're quoting. Here's your problem, here's what you need, here's what I'm going to give you, here's how it's going to work, here's the logistics, this is what it's going to cost. Most people are saying, here's my quote. This is what it's going to cost you, but they're missing all of this. So if you want to increase your quoting conversion significantly, just add all of these. From what you said, this is the problem. Here's what you need. Here's your promise. Does this make sense? Okay. So, any questions on these so far? Okay. So now, not all businesses will relate to the whole 7. But the next one is I say this is skill up, but it's basically we just deliver on our service. So if you're an accountant, you do the strategic accountancy stuff, which is what you are actually. You're a strategic accountant. You're not a compliance accountant. So you're giving them the service. And the final step is to create community, which is get them to team up. So what we want is we want to build community in. So this is a community. So at this step, we're skilling you up and we're teaming you up. This is step 7 in the process. So there's a community. Now the community's starting to, we've given skills, but the community in itself is educating itself, is motivating itself. Does this make sense? So, we want to consider community when we're in our entire sales process. You want to have thought this through. So here's how this works, okay? So we've got our problem. We have our prescription. We have our, what do we have? Promise. What's next? Model. We have, and price. Okay. So to put this together, when we're picking a market, they have to have the problem. The problem relates to the market we pick. The problem also relates to getting them to put their hand up. This is what I mean. We have a single theme to the entire sales process. Do you have this problem? If you don't, fantastic. There was a sales team in Sydney that worked for 90 minutes a day, and they sold. This is when people would call you and say, "Do you want a printer cartridge?" And they worked for 90 minutes a day, and they made 6-figure incomes. And they would say, "Do you need a toner cartridge today?" And they go, "Oh, not today," and they'd hang up. "Do you need a toner cartridge today?" "No, I need it tomorrow," and they'd hang up. "Do you need a toner cartridge today?" "Yes, I do actually." Sale. All they would do is, "Do you have this problem now?" Their entire sales process. 90 minutes, day was over. They would, by the sounds of it, they would probably go and drink a lot of coffee or scotch. So, problem and prescription relate to put your hand up. Now your model relates to this sequence here. If you're going to get people to turn up, do you have this problem? Well, the reason why you have this problem is you don't have a great team. So what you need, this is in your marketing. If you want to build a good team, you need a team. You need to build team in a fun way. You need to build team in a way that challenges them. We need to build team in a way that you can get to shoot the boss. So this is the marketing here. Your model relates to the marketing here in this step. Does that make sense? Yeah? Your hair, we need a new style, we need a new color, and we need a new smell. That's your marketing here. That's how to get people to turn up. Does this make sense? Righto. And then this step here is your conversion event is all of these things. You listen to your client, you make sure they've got the problem, you ask them a bunch of questions. We don't seriously have time to go through that specific part of the process. But if you understand, if we're interviewing people, we're building the entire process around people who are coming with the problem who need it. Your marketing is getting people to turn up to you, up to your door, saying who have this problem. And you know it because they wouldn't have got to this step. They wouldn't have got to this step and they wouldn't have turned up. You with me? Okay, so turn to your neighbour and just share how wonderful life is now that you know that. So share with your neighbour. Okay. All right, so around the room, best bit, at least one from each table. What's your best bit about what you've just learnt? Boys at the back?
I think just you got systems in place for when you get a new prospect in, you can take it through that system.
Yeah. This Magic Pills here has made myself and my clients a lot. Like millions of dollars. Millions of dollars you can make. One client, we just got his Magic Pills in place. All we worked on was this piece. And he was a financial planner, and they did a workshop and made 115 grand in 3 days. And all it was getting rid of a confusion message, and we went through, here's the problem, here's what you need, here's what I've got, here's how it works, here's the logistics, here's what it's going to cost you. Those magic pills are like the spine of any functioning marketing system. So guys, best bit?
For me, it was the same as having a structured process, sales process.
Beautiful. Okay. The question I've got is how can you apply this to your business? That's the real question. So do you guys know how you can apply it to your business? Yep. Beautiful. Like for you, Robert, like I said, you can go, I'm an accountant, but you're not really an accountant. You're a strategic accountant. Now we've added one word to it because you're not a normal accountant. I help you. The problem is it's hard. Most accountants are just doing compliance, but I want an accountant that's going to help me grow my business and save me tax. That's a super accountant. So actually, you're not a strategic accountant. You're a super accountant. So problem you've got is it's hard to find an accountant. It's hard to find an accountant who can save me money and make me money. So what you need is, well, me. I'm Super Rob. I've got a program. This is how we work. We help you save tax and make money. So that's how the model works. Does that make sense? Okay. Ladies, best bit? Learning the system. Which bit? The magic pills? Yeah. It's I mean, how simple is it? It's so common sense, and yet, pardon?
Not talking price first. I think if you put all the other bills in, as you say, and price is last, then you look at it totally different, so it's a mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're not selling them. You're interviewing. Do you have this problem?
Then you sell it anyway.
Yeah. Beautiful.
If you're interviewing somebody, so we're doing the flip now. So if you're interviewing somebody and all they're focusing on is the price, is that where you sort of end the interview? If they're not interested in what you do, how you do it, they how's it going to cost me? Is that where you go, listen, this is not a fit, or?
No.
Or you try and
Well,
direct them
like,
back into
there's two ways to do it. Like, I don't mind saying it's going to cost around this, but you really need to understand what we're doing before we get to price. So if you're happy, we can talk through these other things first, and we'll talk about price after.
Yeah.
But it's just I'm happy to say my service costs a lot of money. It's really expensive, but it's going to make you a lot of money. So let me explain that first, and then we'll talk price. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I don't dodge it, but when our sales consult is an interview, I'll say, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions. You got questions for me, and at the end, we'll talk about my program. Is that okay? So I ask them a bunch of questions. All I want to understand is their marketing working? Do they have this in place? Is their marketing all over the place? Who do they help? What do they help them do? And I'm just trying to ascertain whether I can smash it for them. And then at the end, we go, here's your problem by the sounds of it. From what you said, there's the problem. This is what you need. Here's what I've got. Here's how it works. Here's how we work together. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Guys, best bit?
Can't say a bit.
The whole lot.
Yeah. I guess what it is, it comes back to that, like, once you break it up, it's that each wide, mile deep stuff, you know, like, because we've got so many avatars to put that in place and dig deep, pull it apart, be awesome.
Yeah. Well, easiest way to get avatar is say, who do I get the best results for? Who's going to pay me the most? And
Yeah.
just pick them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. Have we got every table? Best bit, ladies? Did we get you? No?
No, I feel the same. I mean, it's like you said before, it feels like it's a no-brainer. It's common sense. But why not? I don't. It's so easy just to go listen to what they want, just give them advice. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Put that into skill.
And I've heard this explained quite a few times over the last few years, but I really get it because just the way you explain it, I really get it. So this is a process that you put in your copy on the website, you do your sales pitch, and you know, I see people who are just, you know, the smooth can sell snake oil to anybody type people. How do they do that? Well, that's it. That's how they do it.
Mm. Well, this is why we interview people before we teach this.
How do you get the staff to follow that?
The staff?
To follow that. If I do it, that's cool.
You know what, staff, honestly, they just are craving for system. Please tell me how to do this. Please tell me how to be good in your business. Most of the time, like, you know, you do have, most of the time it's a system problem before a personal problem. How do you get your start? Like, I mean, that's not difficult. This is their problem. Do they have the problem? This is what we need. This is what they need. This is what we offer them.
Because that establishes the price really doesn't matter after all. Because if they can see that you're going to solve their problem, they don't care how much it costs.
Well, if, in my case, if I'm going to make you 100 grand, I'm going to charge you 10 to do it. That's cheap. So price, you know, price is either, if you don't have this, if you cut all this out, or most people just go logistics price, it's expensive. Because they don't get, you're solving my problem. You give me what I need. You have this is the outcome I'm getting, this is how we're getting it. There's, you know, this builds up in their mind what the tangibility of your business. Now, Steve and I were talking about this. This is kind of, I know we're running out of time.
Is that what we got?
Steve and I were talking about it. Like, if you're not meeting your customers' expectations with your service, don't look at sales process. If you're not delivering, like if you don't, like I've got a coffee shop down the road from me, and I love the guys. They're so friendly, but they're so late. They miss orders. They stuff up coffee. They give us, you know, gluten stuff on our gluten-free stuff. And they do it all the time. I love the guys, but they've lost my business because they're not meeting my expectations. I expect my order to come. I expect it to come within half an hour if they're not busy. So if you're not meeting your customers' expectations, if you can't deliver this, like this, you know, what we're looking at, step 7, which is create community, this is where the real money is. When you've got people who you've worked with for a long period of time and you've got great relationship with, that's when business is easy because they become your marketing network. But if you're over promising and under delivering, you won't get this. And the problem in the industry, in the information industry, is there's a lot of people over promising and under delivering. Often the best salespeople aren't the best deliverers. So if you can deliver a great experience or a transformational thing for your customers, and you know how to sell it, then business is the I Ching way. It's easy. Cool. Any other questions before we finish up? I was going to summarise, but I think we've kind of summarised. Here's my my website that I've just this morning. It's adamsowden.com. If you want to go and check it out. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook, but excuse the pictures. We were drunk. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Let's not judge it.
Yeah. Well, it was beautiful, actually. I thought we connected. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you so much for letting me teach my stuff to you. Go and use it. Magic pills make a lot of money for your business, and look forward to helping you again. Thank you.
Awesome.